I have indeed a very flat, spotty rug that is, well, as tired and as worn out as could possibly be. So, little Hosana, who is, well, I think it's Hosana, I don't even know, I can't even see him really. All I can see is that there's a massive round belly that's being moving up and down, but that's about the only movement we've seen so far. So I think it's him, given that he was on his kill yesterday, and pretty sure that he has eaten all of that, hence where he is. He's far from where we had him yesterday. He was on the sort of southern side of Chitwa, close to the airstrip, whereas now he's on the northern side of the dam wall. So he's definitely kind of moved a little bit, and he's now probably just going to take a bit of a rest. And I'm surprised he's actually here, given that apparently the Djuma Pride walked right past here this morning and in this general vicinity. So maybe he just decided he'd come and watch the lion parade and while he rested. And I'm pretty sure he's not going to move much at all unless something else comes along that piques his interest. Maybe tingana or maybe some sort of food item, because we know Hosana, even with a full belly, will still look for food. I think other than that, he's going to be one sleepy cat during the course of this morning's drive. I don't think too much is going to go on with him. Well, yes, it is. I mean, it is difficult when you spend a lot of time with animals not to form some sort of attachment. It's obviously kind of the longer that you work out here, in a way, the easier it gets not to. And I say this because you have a situation where you see so many of them disappear, die, that it starts to almost harden you a little bit in a way, which is I know it sounds weird, but and that kind of a bit callous, but it is true. You start to realize that it's just, unfortunately, the way that nature goes, is that you will lose some of these animals, and so you start to kind of really, develop these sort of emotions towards things, and then you realize that it's just not worth doing it, because ultimately, it's never going to end well. But it's hard not to. I mean, it's hard not to kind of get this love for an animal that provides so much and gives you so much. And you think of cats like Hosana and Tamba and Karula. I mean, these are all animals that have given so many amazing sightings to all of us, and it becomes very difficult not to kind of get attached to that, and it makes it hard when they do disappear or unfortunately get hurt or something like that. And so you try not to, but I suppose it's inevitable. I mean, they endear themselves so many times, and not just the leopards. I mean, there's certain people will have a close attachment to lions or to elephant, and we know Taylor absolutely loves Daryl. I'm pretty sure she'd be quite devastated if something happened to Daryl, and so it depends. I mean, we've all got certain kind of animals that we get to know and that we kind of have some sort of an emotional attachment to, and it's hard to kind of see them going through difficult parts. So yeah, I suppose we do. It's just inevitable. It's human emotion, is that we get attached to things. And if you look at the way that we kind of deal with our pets and those kind of things, it's and not that these animals are pets. It's just a situation where you do get kind of, you get to spend so much time with them that it's difficult not to. And I know a lot of people will say you need to remove the emotion from it and those kind of things, and yes, that's true, but like I say, when you're doing it every single day, day in, day out, and most of you join us a lot of the time for that, it's why these kind of things become difficult to sort of deal with. But it is nature, and so I suppose there's nothing that we can do that's going to prevent it. Oh, hello. Are you going to stretch a little bit, Hosana? It definitely looks like him. It's not Tingana, that's for sure, and it's not Tamba. And so if you add the kind of fact that he's got a big belly and clean ears, I'm pretty sure Hosana. But that is one full cat, that's for sure. I'm hoping he's going to roll onto his back like he did yesterday, because I love it when cats do that, especially if they've got full bellies. When you see male lions after a big buffalo kill and they're all kind of on their backs with these massive, huge swollen bellies, it's always quite fun to look at. And so hopefully Hosana will do the same thing and oblige. Also hoping at some point he decides to actually pop his head up and have a look at what's going on around him. It's interesting how he's just so used to kind of vehicles and the presence of vehicles that I've watched two vehicles, us arrive and one vehicle drive past him, and he has not even twitched or sort of lifted his head to even see what it is. And I mean, it's not like we are not noisy creatures. We're noisy kind of cars and especially the Wendy or the Jigger and Rusty fleet, we have lots of squeaks, and that means that when we go over grass and things like that and drive near him, it makes a lot of noise, yet he just does not react at all. So it just goes to show how relaxed he is and what a massive food coma he's in at the moment. He's probably just dreaming about being a bit more comfortable than he currently is from eating too much duiker. I wonder if that male duiker came back again yesterday to investigate what was going on. It's interesting. It's amazing also the bond that those little antelope form in such a short space of time. Well, he was on the move, and he's just found himself a shadier spot than what he was in. But at least he's up and kind of looking around and grooming himself. It's far more activity than what we've seen from him over the course of the morning so far. But he's really now found himself a perfect spot for a nap. There's a bit of dark, damp soil there that he's going to be able to lie on, which will be cool after the rains that we've had. And then he's got himself a nice bush that's going to shade him for most of the day today. He'll be able to get in underneath there and should be really nice and sort of comfortable for his day that he's going to have. So very, very nice for him. Yes, we're talking about you, mister. Are you a happy cat today? Cool weather, full tummy. Doesn't get much better than that if you're a leopard, I don't think. I don't know, what else would you think you would ask for? Maybe some friends. We know Hosana likes to have friends and likes to kind of be able to spend time with Dad. Maybe you'd want to have some dad time today. Either way, he looks as though he's a comfortable cat, and I don't know how long his comfort is going to last, because that sun that's starting to come out behind the cloud has got some vengeance to it, and so I think he's going to, unfortunately, have an uncomfortable hot day to deal with when he's got that full tummy. The nice thing, though, about cats is that they digest quite quickly, so you can see that his tummy, while it is full, is not that bad, and by this afternoon it will look as though he could already start hunting again. What is very, very, very cool to see now that he's actually popped his neck up, do you see his little dewlap that's starting to form? Look, there it is. You see that? So he's starting to get a little dewlap. So, Sassy, you were actually commenting on how nice and big he's getting. He is starting to kind of fill out, isn't he? He's always been a stocky character, and he's never going to be a monster in terms of his size. Well, I don't think he'll ever be Anderson's size, but he's definitely going to be a stocky individual, and he's going to, I think, have a similar build to what Hukumuri's got. So be very wide around the chest area, and he's going to be kind of big head and neck like Tingana's got, but he's not maybe going to have the same sort of height that you see from Anderson. So it's going to be interesting, though, to see how much he develops. He certainly does well at feeding himself, and so if he's growing, he's providing enough nutrients to cause massive amounts of growth. He constantly seems as though he's full. In fact, I don't think I've seen Hosana looking in a skinny state at all. He generally looks pretty good whenever we see him, and so he's figured out adult life pretty well. And I mean, the fact that he's been on his own for a year now will be a good sort of measure of how well he's actually sort of done and how he's able to have worked out how to hunt him. And we know, oh, there we go. Oh, you're tired, boy. Okay. So, to the fact that he's able to hunt things like big impala rams and those kind of things and be successful is really, really good news. The only thing I don't think he's mastered too much just yet is warthogs. I think he's still trying to figure that out, and that'll come with size. Male leopards, when they get big, really start to kind of hit warthogs a little bit more. Now, catbrag, the dewlap is not fat, it's just skin that grows out, basically, so you can see it's very kind of wobbly, and if they move and shake their head, it's just basically skin that moves around. Now, I'm sure there might be a fat element to it on the sebaceous layer of the skin, but I don't think it's a fatty kind of object. It's not like it's a storing of fat or anything like that. Remember that fat, if it was somewhere where it was stored, it would be utilized when this animal has no food, because fat will be burnt for the body to basically survive, and that dewlap then theoretically would disappear. But we know with Tingana that even when he was really skinny and he was really struggling, that his dewlap remains. So it's just a skin element that grows out a little bit, and there really is very little kind of fat within that dewlap itself. So it's not because he's overeating that he's getting his little dewlap. It's just part and parcel of becoming a mature individual and a dominant, well, not a dominant, but a sort of aging male leopard. He'll start to kind of develop it. And I wonder how big it's going to get. Is he going to have a really big one? Or is he going to be like Hukumuri, that's almost got a non-existent dewlap at the moment. Jared's buddy, there must be some element of hereditary kind of dewlaps, so that the dewlap develops according to what they kind of genes they've got in them. That's the only real thing it can be, because there's a lot of different males that you get out here, and some get really monstrous dewlaps and others don't. You look at Anderson, for example. While he has one, it's not as big as what Tingana's is. Even though Anderson is a bigger leopard, he hasn't developed a huge dewlap. It's just a big neck that he's got and shoulders. So there must be some sort of genetics involved with the dewlap growing and getting bigger, and obviously different males have different sizes. So much like they are different sizes in terms of their body, so their dewlap varies according to probably genetics that they've got. So given that he's got Tingana's genetics, theoretically he should have a bigger dewlap at some point. So, Gillian, I thoroughly agree with you. It's too bad that a dewlap in humans is not admired as... Well, Taylor, I suppose yes. The answer to that is I would be quite well experienced at it, given that I've had to do it a few times, and we have a situation where Taylor has issued challenges to do this multiple times. I think Taylor enjoys it. I'm not a huge fan of it, just from a point of view that I think I've done it too many times to actually really have a sort of excitement for it anymore. It's something that you often do as a kid and try and see how far you can go. And I'm not sure about Taylor's theory, the heavier the better. It depends. I think aerodynamics has also got to play a part in it. You've got to have a ball that is not going to be held up in the wind by a flattened side. Well, Rebecca, the point is that you do not choose dung that is fresh enough to break up in your mouth. If you choose the right kind of dung, it's going to be nice and kind of crispy on the outside, which means it shouldn't break up at all. And the point is that you don't chew it as well. You're not supposed to chew. It's supposed to just go in and out, really. But you never know. Rebecca sometimes does these things and she doesn't know why. Bex, it's like your arm, isn't it? It's the same thing. Rebecca hurt her arm recently and she still doesn't know why it happened or what happened. But it requires a brace to go on, and she's now the one-armed bandit of the camp. And she seems to be very good with her left hand. Exactly, and I was just about to go to that point, Rebecca. Rebecca read my mind, and I was saying she's the one-armed bandit, but it hasn't seemed to hold her back, because the other day we had a game that required throwing, and Brent, who had a lot to say before the game, went up against Rebecca, and Rebecca just cleaned the floor with Brent and absolutely smashed him in the game, even though she was using her left arm, which is her supposedly weaker arm, and was able to kind of beat him. So Brent was then sulking, and Rebecca won the game, and we're not going to let Brent live that down anytime soon. We're going to have a situation where we're just going to keep bringing it up whenever we can, because we know Brent doesn't like to lose at anything. Good. Now we're talking about actual things to do with safari. We're going to probably leave Hosana shortly. He's, I doubt, going to do much more than what he's already done and get up and move into a little shady spot. He's now found himself a really good spot, and so I was thinking we'll just pop down to the dam and see what our hippo's up to, see if there's any interesting birds around, and maybe our crocs are around. I know that Taylor will probably want an update on Snappy and see what he's doing, so we'll probably go and head off in that direction. I just want to see now when this car leaves if he's going to move or if he's going to just stay down. I was wondering if he might just pop his head up and show us those beautiful eyes one last time. Tokyo, I mean, animals probably have a situation where I mean, there's instinct will be a part of it. So years and years of evolution and in living in these areas, they'll know where, well, the habitat basically defines what their coat pattern will be and what their camouflage will be. And most animals, as long as they can get into any sort of area where they feel like they are being hidden by plants as leaves or branches or grasses, will know that they camouflage because their coloration, their markings are designed to be in the habitat that they're in. So I don't know if it's a conscious decision to know that I'll camouflage in that bush over there if I go and sit there. I think it's more a situation that the animal is designed perfectly or evolved perfectly to camouflage as well as possible, and then it gets itself, in the environment that it occurs is an area where it will camouflage on pretty much everything it goes into. And so things like leopards, they camouflage in the grass and the trees, and they are very kind of prolific in areas where you've got dense, thick vegetation that they can sort of survive in. It's not to say that they don't do well in places like a desert